going to talk about sound editing and sound mixing. And the introductory question there for all of you guys is, what is the difference? This is one of the things that I explain to people over and over again. Nobody ever seems to get this.
This is why they're looking
at uniting them.
Which, judging by a couple of queries I've made, it looks like it's going to happen. It's
wow.
an inevitability.
For next year.
For next year, for next season. And the reason being that the technology quite a while ago made it easier to both record and mix. And so there's really no dividing line anymore between
It used to be you would put music over on the mixing side, right?
So they're very different disciplines, obviously. Sound editing, you have a bigger team. This is people that are finding, recording, and picking the sounds. And they take these big tracks and they hand them over to the mixers.
They're creating the soundscape.
They're taking the production sound, but they're also going to get the sound effects and
they're in charge of ADR and all that.
Yeah. So anything they get, they're not production sound, but they are the people. They're gathering everything, building the tracks, and then the mixers change it. I think the issue becomes this: is that I think in general the Academy thinks in terms of sound design.
Yep.
And I think that's the reason. Although these are very different disciplines, I think at the end of the day, it's becoming harder and harder to separate them. And what happens is that with mixers, it's not just blending it together, adjusting levels. What they're doing with those sounds and how they're combining them and how they're placing them in the room, in the space. I have sat in on mixing sessions with some of these great mixers, and honestly, some of the work they're doing, while I watched the movie, I would have associated with sound editing. And that's why you also have people going across disciplines now in the sound designer overseeing them. And since let me see here, since sound editing went to 5 nominees in 2006, what you have is 8 of the 13 winners in both categories have been the same. So 8 of 13 years, the same wins. And to your point, often when it's not, it's when music goes over to mixing. So then you have 4 of the 5 nominees in 10 of those 13 years are the same. Mm-hmm. So on average, you're talking about only 1 nominee difference on both.
What tends to win in this category? Is it war movies? Is it big, noisy, layered, movies like Transformers or something, right?
Yep, we have
Avengers.
Complicated action. I'd say complicated action. War, especially war, is psychological. And music. Yeah, and music. And so you could also build in, like, Ford versus Ferrari is a very strong player this year. It's kind of that complicated.
That one is going to definitely get in there, and it could win. It could actually win. What about Avengers Endgame?
Well, here's my question about this. The Marvel films have never registered in here, and now I see every prognosticator putting them in the top 5. Is Disney just spending money to promote it this year, or what? Why is Endgame different?
I think they have changed their tune in terms of campaigning. Marvel used to say they didn't care about Oscar campaigns. Isn't that right, Bill?
Yeah. Now they do.
Now they do.
Because now,
especially after Black Panther,
now they got a taste.
They got a taste of what
Black Panther broke that's it. Black Panther broke the mold, and now they're more respectable.
Captain Sam, you hear me? On your left.
What about the Irishman?
Also, once again, a little bit more subtle in its use of sound, not as flashy, not terribly flashy. A little bit of experimentation with the voices to play around with trying to make them seem younger, but ultimately pulling back on that because they didn't want to, tamper with the performances.
Interesting.
Too slow, not enough guns. I think.
To simplify.
It's like you're talking about. You got your war film this year. You got 1917. That's going to be a front runner. You've got Rocket Man. You got your music.
Yeah.
So that's.
And you've got your Cars with Ford versus
Ferrari. So those are your 3 front runners.
Or Cats. We haven't seen Cats.
Another musical that could potentially.
And also the last 3 Star Wars films have been nominated for mixing. And then you also have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I'd be curious what you think about this, the whole KHJ issue of this, because it's such a huge part of the movie.
That's an interesting thematic point that Quentin played with, which was making a character out of the popular AM radio station KHJ at the time, and using it as a character to place you in LA at that time, not only the music, but the disc jockeys and the news break-ins to get in the Vietnam War and other things going on. And so every time Brad Pitt is in the car, he's got KHJ, and that gives you a grounding. And it reminded me of American Graffiti, how they used Wolfman Jack and rock and roll.
You wrote about this, and when I read your story, I was trying to figure out whether this was a sound mixing issue and whether they would take it seriously. And do you think they will?
I would hope so. I mean,
it's a little innovative for them, is my guess.
It's certainly a
or Uncut Gems. Are they going to take that seriously?
No, but they should.
Tell us why, Chris.
Skip Leafsay is a very
revered.
He is a revered. But what he's currently doing with all of these tracks is people do think he's pushing it too far. Josh Safdie, when he saw what they could do after he shot the movie, went and wrote a 45-page ADR script, not because to fix, but so he could flesh out all this conversation that's going around Sandler's character. And it's just remarkable, remarkable work. But I think it's too abrasive, and I think some.
I have heard the Safdies talk about how they go and record the sound again and really get very picky about it.
You know, they went union. Benny always held the boom.
He's the guy.
Local 52, so he could be the boom op when they went union.
Yeah, I want you to do a whole story on the crafts for Uncut Gems.
The film that we haven't mentioned that is in the mix here is Joker. I think Joker is very much in the mix for this one.
For sound.
Again, going back to the urban New York Gotham, and I think back to the scenes in the apartment and all the racket causing the neighbors to object, and they seem to be part of the atmosphere at all times.